My boyfriend, who I live with, works as a teacher in a town about 15 minutes away by train. He gets home more or less at the same time every day, give or take an hour or so. I, on the other hand, work from home. In late January of this year, we'd gotten in a pretty big fight about something stupid. I can't even remember what it was about now, but it was one of those fights where we didn't speak to each other, text, call, or anything the whole next day. So this afternoon, I was lying in bed getting work done. It was a Tuesday, and I was pretty sure his last class finished at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, meaning he'd surely be home at 2:30. But around 1 p.m. I heard the front door open and shut. I thought, I guess he's home an hour or so early today. It was normal for him to skip his last class every once in a while, so I didn't really think anything of it. In fact, I was mostly mentally preparing for the awkward post-fight, "Hey, how's it going?" conversation. So I continued to lie in bed and do my work and wait for him to come in and change his clothes. The bedroom door was closed and I had earplugs sort of half in, as I usually do when I'm working, but I could hear the heavy footsteps of him walking around the apartment as he always does. If we hadn't been mid-fight and I wasn't so preoccupied with the awkwardness of it all, I might have noticed it was strange how slow the footsteps were or how long he spent walking around the living room. But I was caught up in the dramatics of the fight and didn't want to think about it. I was just lying there waiting for him to finally come in. Finally, the bedroom door slowly opened just a few inches. I turned my head towards the door and prepared to give him a sort of awkward "we've been fighting for 24 hours, smile. But the door didn't open more than a few inches. I looked and saw that it was a woman's hand with red nail polish on the doorknob. Whoever was there slowly closed the door just as they had opened it without entering the room. I jumped out of bed, ripped out my earplugs, and sort of froze there for a few seconds while thinking rapidly. For my first thought, that was not my boyfriend. Then I thought, could that have been his mom, his sister, the landlady? For some reason I concluded surely it wasn't his mom or his sister, so I opened the bedroom door and walked into the living room. There wasn't anyone there, but the room smelled heavily of woman's perfume. Then I came to my senses and realized his mom and sister don't have keys and have never come over before. The landlady has never entered without permission. This was a stranger. I ran back into the bedroom and shut the door, now shaking heavily. There was a balcony connected to the bedroom, so despite the cold January rain, I stood on the balcony and called my boyfriend. He picked up and I asked him if his mom or his sister might have come over unannounced. He told me no, don't move, I'm calling the police. The police were there in minutes and searched the whole apartment. Of course nobody was there by this point. It was weird though, nothing was missing from the apartment despite us keeping a jar full of money right in the entrance. Nothing was even touched. In fact, it seemed like the intruder came straight to the bedroom, saw my legs on the bed, panicked, and left. Plus, you can't open that big wooden front door without a key. For a few days, my boyfriend and I were convinced it was just the landlady being nosy. I began to feel better. Nevertheless, we demanded that the landlady change our locks. When she came to change them with her husband, she made a discovery. There was a square area by the keyhole that had been scratched away with something. The landlady said surely someone used tools to break into the apartment. Then a day or two later, my boyfriend told me, "I have to tell you something, but don't freak out." He told me that the orange kitchen scissors were missing. I obviously freaked out. I tore the apartment apart, looking for those scissors. It's been 6 months and those scissors are gone. So the whole thing is just creepy and weird. A stranger breaks into a nice apartment but doesn't touch or take anything valuable. Not even the money jar sitting right in the entrance. Takes scissors from the kitchen, goes straight to the bedroom, sees someone in bed, and immediately leaves. I never got to meet the person who opened the door that day. I hope I never do.
In many stores and establishments that provide videos of a less than appropriate manner, there is a business card. Some stores keep it well hidden, locked in a safe, and will deny its existence. Others will show you if you ask it for it by name. None will have it displayed in the open. On this card is a name, Moonlight Films, and a contact number. It's always a local number. Go to any payphone in any city and dial the number. The answer will be prompt, but all you will hear is silence. Wait for 30 seconds, then you will be served. A dry, monotone male voice will ask you one question. Is the road from life to death dark? If you answer with anything but the correct reply, he will hang up on you. If you fail the first time, I'd suggest not trying again. The correct response is, it is moonlit. If his question is answered properly, the man will say one address in your city and then hang up. Go to this address and you'll find that it is a small, dingy apartment. The carpet will be dirty, the wallpaper flaking and wrinkled, the windows cracked. It will smell of tobacco smoke and decay. On the stained old coffee table, there will be a paper bag. On this bag, you will find your full name in red Sharpie. Open the bag and you will find an unlabeled videotape. Take it and place exactly $10.99 in the bag and leave. You can watch the tape if you like, but you don't have to. I warn you, it's not pleasant. You will see a room or chamber papered in desiccated skin. The furniture will be crafted from flesh and bone, but all of it will be alive. The tape will last approximately 32 minutes and will depict the murder of a person and the subsequent crafting of their body into another animated furnishing. You have rented this tape for 1 week. You must return it to the apartment by sliding it through the mail slot when the time is up. After that, never return to the apartment. Never return to the store you received the contact number from, and definitely don't call the number ever again. I'd also suggest you not keep the tape more than a week. The owners will not be satisfied with a mere late fee, and a good home can never have enough accessories.
I never thought to share this story here, but a few months ago I posted about it briefly in another subreddit and everyone suggested I share it here also. Some of you may have seen it the last time I shared it. It was summer, I believe the day after the 4th of July, and my husband and I were in the middle of a cross-country road trip. We were driving through Texas, and for any of you who have driven across the entire state of Texas, you know that it is very long and very barren. Sometimes we'd go for hours without seeing anything at all, and the towns we did pass through didn't consist of much more than a rusty old gas station and a few dusty little houses. Looking out the window, you would swear you were just driving through the same 5 miles of desert again and again and again. I started getting a headache, and my husband suggested I take a quick nap to get rid of it. I remember allowing myself to doze off as I watched the beautiful colors of a desert sunset. The slowing of the car woke me up, and the first thing I noticed was how dark it was. I believe it was around 10 p.m. My husband had stopped at a gas station with a small shop. He told me he was going to grab us some food and asked if I needed to pee. Knowing I might not have another chance for quite a while, I went to the shop to use the restroom. Both the men's and the women's restrooms were down a little hall from the open area of the shop. I was groggy and tired and realized how badly I needed to pee, so I shuffled into the restroom. As I made my way the short distance from the door to the nearest of the 2 stalls, I made eye contact with a woman coming out of the only other stall. She didn't quite look homeless, but she was definitely messy looking. She had wild gray hair, almost shoulder length, sticking out every direction from her head. It looked like she hadn't seen a brush in weeks. She was wearing ragged-looking clothing, a pair of ill-fitting black workout shorts, and I remember noting her foam flip-flops. Several layers on top, one of them being a large purple and green coat. Keep in mind that this is Texas in July. The jacket was just hanging on her shoulders crooked, like she hadn't bothered to take a few more seconds to put it on correctly. She was carrying something in a tied-up plastic grocery bag. I gave a quick smile as our eyes met, and she just stared at me in return. Then her face turned wild and intense looking. Her eyebrows were set as if she was angry, but her eyes had a wild, alive look. She looked at me like she was hungry, and this was when I felt the first tinge of something wrong. I tried to brush it off. She waddled over to the only sink, and I took my time shutting the stall door because something about her posture in front of the mirror struck me as odd, and I was trying to figure it out. She was standing with her body more angled toward me, but her face was turned to the mirror. Her body was tense, legs slightly crouched as if she was ready to act. Her hands were not up by her face or trying to fix her mess of hair or even being washed. They were at her sides, elbows also slightly bent. I wasn't sure why, but I suddenly felt uncomfortable. I regretted leaving my purse and cell phone behind. I shut and locked the stall door and took my time using the toilet. I wanted her gone before I left the safety of the stall. I stayed there long after I had finished, but the woman was still there, so I waited longer. Finally, I heard the smacking of her flip-flops as she made her way to the door. I heard it open and then slam closed. The door was pretty heavy and had slammed the same way when I entered. I stayed for a moment and allowed the wave of relief to wash over me before I reached for the lock, then paused, fingers only an inch from the lock. I stayed silent as I could manage to confirm what I had just thought I heard. Yes, breathing. The woman had only pretended to leave. At this point I was scared and confused. Why had she tried to trick me into thinking she left only to stick around and be as quiet as possible? I knew something was very wrong, so I stayed in the stall even longer, and this time it must have been at least 20 minutes. But I had no way of knowing for sure. I could tell from the direction her breathing was coming from that she had positioned herself in the far corner, right next to the door, far enough that I couldn't see her feet. Finally, I heard her leave. This time I waited a few minutes to make sure she hadn't tried her trick again. I slipped out of the stall, quickly washed my hands, and rushed down the hallway to the store. It was pitch black outside and I had no idea where she was. She couldn't be far. A large man was checking out at the register, so I waited near a window display until he left the store and quietly slipped out the door behind him. Sure enough, crouched right outside the front door was the woman. She seemed surprised as she stood and turned away, walking quickly around the side of the store. My husband was waiting in the car and asked me if I was okay since I had taken so much longer than usual, and I said I would tell him all about it once we were away from that store. The Redditors that previously read about my experience had many theories, but the two most common were that she was a druggie who wanted to mug me, or that she worked with sex trafficking. I'm open to any of your theories. I tried to see if there was anything in the news from around that time, but I couldn't figure out exactly where we were when this happened.
There it goes again. Something definitely moved this time. It was very brief, but out of the corner of your eye, you saw something. But wait, all the doors are locked, no pets, and your parents won't get home until 10. So there's no way something moved. It's just your imagination getting the best of you. Sitting alone in your room, the only light emitting from the monitor of your computer. You stare into the darkness for several minutes, just to be sure. Now, you feel silly. What were you thinking? Of course there's nothing there. What, are you 6? Just go back to what you were doing. 15 minutes later, as you prepare to go to bed, you're in the bathroom. The shower curtain shifts. Wait, no. Stop spooking yourself. It's just an overactive imagination, filling your head with what isn't really there. You gaze into the mirror at yourself. You say it to yourself, slowly and clearly. Imagination. With a sigh, you turn the lights off and head towards your room. Laying in bed, you stare at your ceiling, dark and foreboding. Only the motion of a small fan disturbing the calmness of the night. A shadow from the light in the hall shifts. No, 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 no. Stop it. It's your imagination. Just that. Go to sleep, you fool. But then, just when you're about to drift off to sleep, at the phase no one remembers when they wake, you sense something in the darkness. It's your imagination leering down at you with a jagged, macabre smile.